There's some great commons and uncommons hidden in the bulk of the Avatar set, so let's take a look at them. Hello everybody and welcome back into the fort where we make magic more accessible for everyone. My name is Tyler Saves Ya Bucks and Avatar is here, so I'm going to do what I always do. Look at the best commons and uncommons from the entire set and point out what cards will probably fit in some of your favorite decks and not feel like a common or uncommon effect. It can feel like a rare or a mythic in the right build. Let's kick things off with Destined Confrontation. We're looking at like 30 commons and uncommons from this set. This is a really, really good one, so I'll try and go fast so you know what to look out for when you're opening your packs. This is 2 white for a sorcery. Each player chooses any number of creatures they control with total power 4 or less, then sacrifices all other creatures they control. This is very similar to Slaughter the Strong, which is 1 mana cheaper than this, but if you have a deck that already likes having small creatures or not that many creatures, this could be another alternative that you can throw in there, and especially if you pull it in a pack, then you can slot it right in without having to go out and buy a Slaughter the Strong. And plus, the art is really epic on this one. Enter the Avatar State is a 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control becomes an avatar in addition to its other types and gains flying, first strike, lifelink, and hexproof. This does a whole lot for only 1 mana, plus it's a lesson if you're doing a lot of stuff with lessons moving forward. The fact that you're able to give a lot of really good keywords, the evasion's good, the lifelink's good to put on a really big creature, plus hexproof, of course. That's kind of why it's on the list here. You're doing a combat trick, but in this case, you're also being able to have it be a protective spell if somebody targets your commander or a big creature that you have. You can protect it and then attack through, gain a bunch of life, and deal a bunch of damage in the process. Compassionate Healer might not look like it should be on this list, but I'll explain why in a second. It is a 2 mana 2/2. When it becomes tapped, you scry 1 and gain a life. Why I have it on the list is because we have so many more vehicle commanders. Specifically, legendary vehicles can be your commander. Plus, we have all of the cards from Edge of Eternities that are stations that you can tap to station. We also have mounts. Gaining a little life and scrying every time it becomes tapped in a deck where you're consistently tapping your creatures will help you keep up with the rest of the table on your life total and sculpt the top of your library. Momo, Playful Pet, is 1 mana for a Lemur Bat ally legend. It's a 1/1 flying vigilance. When it leaves the battlefield, choose 1, create a food token, put a counter on target creature you control, or scry 2. This card is very good in blink strategies. If you have a deck where you're consistently blinking your creatures, when this leaves the battlefield, you have a bevy of things that you can do with it. Scrying 2 is probably what you'll do the most often, but it's only 1 mana. It's a good flying blocker, and at the same time, you get it on the field right away. And then whatever blink strategy you have now has a target from as early as turn 1, which makes this Momo very strong. Airbending Lesson. This is one that I'm not completely sure how much I like it in a broad number of decks. And I wrote an article about all these cards on EDH Rec. I will link it here. And I asked the question there as well. Will you put this in some of your decks? It's a 3 mana removal spell at instant speed. Airbend, target non-land permanent. And then you draw a card. So airbending is you exile it. While it's exiled, its owner may cast it for 2 rather than its mana cost. You can do your own permanent if you want to reuse a enters or leaves trigger. You draw a card in the process, but you can also disrupt somebody else by getting rid of one of their creatures with a bunch of counters on it. Now they have to start all over again, or a big, say like the One Ring, and they have a bunch of counters on that and they're tapping. You can airbend that. Now they have to recast it later. It's just an interesting card, and I don't know, would you play this in some of your decks? We're moving on to blue with Ember Island Production. Holds a very special place in my heart because at MagicCon Atlanta, I was able to do a whole event being the Zuko from the Ember Island production. Let me actually, it's right here. See? And it's even on the wrong side, like in the actual episode of the show. And it's a powerful spell. Let's talk about it. 3 blue. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it's not legendary and is a 4/4 hero in addition to its other types. or create a token that's a copy of target creature an opponent controls, except it's not legendary, and is a 2/2 coward in addition to its other types. It's just an interesting way of like, this is a good recreation of a creature or a bad recreation of a creature. And that flexibility is really nice if you want to reuse, say, your commander on your side of the board, or you have a deck that would benefit from stealing other people's effects. Octopus Form is 1 mana for a instant lesson. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. What's cool about this, like we talked about with the Avatar State, is that the hexproof is going to help protect it. But if you have a deck, say like Garth One Eye, this also untaps that to be able to reuse its tap effect all over again, which will find homes in a lot of decks that have those activated abilities. Waterbending Lesson, 3 and a blue for a sorcery lesson. Draw 3 cards, then discard a card unless you waterbend 2. So waterbending is you can pay a waterbend cost with, of course, mana, but then also your creatures or artifacts. It's kind of like Convoke in that way. There's a lot of decks out there nowadays, especially like with all the mayhem that came out through Spider-Man, that like discarding cards. So any card that draws you 3 and then triggers some of your discard effects is going to be useful. And then, like we talked about with the healer, if you have a deck that likes to tap their stuff, or you have a lot of artifacts sitting around anyway, this can be just a 4 mana draw 3 in that effect. Boomerang Basics. This is 1 mana, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control that permanent, draw a card. We've had a lot of cards like this in the past, and it will do work. It still does work to bounce somebody's non-land permanent, even though some people don't like utilizing bounce. That tempo play of getting rid of something big for only 1 mana and then having to make them spend their mana on their turn to recast it, or even just go, I'm not even going to replay it, I'm going to try and do this other stuff. It throws people off. And then if you have a deck where you like to, again, cast some of your stuff all over again, you can draw a card when you cast it on one of your permanents. Honest Work is a 1 mana aura. You put it on a creature an opponent controls. When it enters, you tap the creature and remove all counters from it. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and has tap, add colorless, named Humble Merchant. This type of removal is really strong in Commander because of the fact that if you destroy somebody's commander, they put it right back into the command zone. This is a way to lock it down. Yes, it gives them a little bit of ramp because now it is a mana dork, but if you turn someone's super powerful commander into a mana dork, for 1 mana, that's a pretty nice trade-off. Fire Navy Trebuchet. This is a 3 mana 0/4 defender with reach. Whenever you attack, create a 2/1 colorless construct artifact creature token with flying named Ballistic Boulder that's tapped and attacking. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. When we have sets like Tarkir Dragonstorm, where we have all those warriors that enter tapped and attacking. We have Ishin. Two Heavens is one of the most popular fighting or combat commanders out there. They love cards like this, and it's a 0/4 defender that gives you attackers, and then you can tap all out, attack people, and then block with this. It's got the reach and everything. I think it's just a really nifty card for those types of decks. Zuko's Conviction, 1 mana for an instant, kicker for 4. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was kicked, instead put that card onto the battlefield tapped. Instant speed is really nice. 1 mana for the effect to just get something you need back into your hand before your turn starts is nice. And then 5 mana late game if you really need to get something right back, a Massacre Worm or something, get it onto the battlefield for 5 mana. That's not the biggest drawback, especially at instant speed. Azula on the Hunt. This is 3 and a black for a 4/3 Human Noble. Firebending 2, that's again, when it attacks, you make 2 red mana. It goes away at the end of combat. Whenever it attacks, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. What's cool about this is the fact that to crack a clue token and draw a card, it's 2 mana. And when Azula attacks, you make 2 mana, crack that clue, and draw a card. You'll lose a life in the process, but it's a little engine all on its own. Plus, if you don't crack that clue during combat, you are in a good spot to just start making clues every single time you attack. It's a good creature to put onto the board, and it gives you more tokens in the process. Heartless Act is a reprint, but it's still a good card, even though this art is just that, heartless and heartbreaking. It is 1 and a black for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. Sometimes removing 3 counters from something is going to be relevant. You can help power something down, or you can just destroy a generically, something out there without any counters on it. But I still think it is playable, even though the art is going to be a lot to look at. Let's move on. Combustion Man. This is 3 red for a human assassin for 6. Whenever Combustion Man attacks, destroy target permanent unless its controller has Combustion Man deal damage to them equal to its power. What's really interesting with this card is the fact that it destroys any permanent, and red usually doesn't destroy enchantments, so you can destroy an enchantment, a planeswalker, of course, artifacts, lands. You can destroy any permanent, which is super cool. And if it's in a deck where you're already buffing up your creatures, like I think a Xenagos deck would really like this, or something else that buffs up creatures, now when this attacks, you're going to get a huge amount of damage at somebody, or they have to lose one of their best things. Combustion, it's just a cool card. How to start a riot. Hey, riot. That's how you do it. 2 and a red for an instant lesson. Target creature you control gains menace until end of turn, and then creatures target player controls gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I think it's just a very nice combat trick that does scale to bigger boards. If you have a large token board, you can attack all out, give one of your biggest tokens menace, but then all of your creatures get that +2/+0 at instant speed when people are least ready to, I'll block here, I'll block there, boom, start a riot, deal a whole bunch more damage than people were ready for. Especially if you have like 1/1s. Now they're 3/1s out of nowhere. That changes the math all over the place. Solstice Revelations is 2 and a red for an instant. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. If you don't cast the card this way, put it into your hand, and then it has flashback for 7. It's just pretty good in mono red decks. Red, especially mono red, sometimes has issues with card advantage. And even though this is a 3 mana, possibly draw 1 card, it still might be a 3 mana, get a really cool spell, cast it for free, and then on a later turn, flash it back when you have even more mountains out and possibly get an even bigger thing. That's just kind of what red likes to do. And this will slot into a lot of really nice mono red decks, especially all the Exile Matters ones that are out there. Zuko, Exiled Prince, 3 and a red for a 3/4 human noble firebending 3, and then you can pay 3, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. This, much like Azula, feeds into itself. You make that 3 mana, and then you can spend all that 3 mana right into exiling the top card of your library to play. It's just an engine all on its own, while at the same time being a mana outlet as the game goes on. If you have extra mana, you can start exiling cards from your library and try and find some answers. It's a really nice, again, big creature that does several different things. Price of Freedom is 1 and a red for a sorcery lesson. Destroy target artifact or land an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, draw a card. The draw card is doing some heavy lifting here. The fact that this replaces itself is really great, but also the fact that there's a lot of, you don't want to destroy everybody's lands in Commander, but when somebody has a very strong land, you want to have a way to be able to deal with it. And this is a way to do that. You can destroy a, really expensive or really strong land that's doing too much on somebody else's board. They get that basic and you draw a card. but also you can just destroy an artifact in the meantime, which in a lot of decks, you want to have a way to get rid of people's artifacts. So why not staple on a little bit of targeted land destruction? Not mass land destruction, just targeted land destruction. Moving on to green, we have True Ancestry, which is 1 and a green for a sorcery lesson. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Create a clue. If you have a deck that is filled with a lot of permanent cards, this will help get those back for you. Plus, you get a clue in the meantime that you can then crack later and draw a card. Cycle of Renewal. This is very close to Harrow in the sense of what it does. It's an instant lesson, 2 mana and a green. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Harrow, they actually don't come into play tapped. It's more like, ooh, there's another card that this is Roiling Regrowth. It's a lot like Roiling Regrowth, but it also is a lesson. So if you have a deck that likes lessons, of course, but if you have a deck that likes putting some of their lands in the graveyard, this is a cool way to do it. And also, if you're earthbending, where you turn your lands into creatures, and if they die or are put in exile, they come back to the battlefield. Now, if you sacrifice that land, it'll come back to the battlefield, and then you get 2 basics in the process, so you're not down the land at all. Origin of Metal Bending. This, in my opinion, might be one of the best commons in the set. It is 1 and a green for an instant lesson. Choose 1, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. It's got both the removal as well as the protection. It's an epic scene being captured on the card. All decks need ways to deal with artifacts and enchantments, and stapling that to a way that can just save you the game is pretty nice, if you ask me. Definitely don't overlook this one. Seismic Sense is 1 mana for a sorcery lesson. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You may reveal a creature or land from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It just scales with the game. Sometimes, late game, you are looking for a specific answer. And if you have 8 lands, 1 mana to dig 8 cards deep to find that creature or land that's going to help you get out of a certain spot is not too bad of a thing, especially if you're in a deck that's centered around lands. Shared Roots. This is basically just Rampant Growth, and we have Rampant Growth in standard now. 1 and a green sorcery lesson. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. There you go. If you like Rampant Growth, then you should probably play this card. It does the same thing, plus it's also a lesson. Unlucky Cabbage Merchant. My cabbages! I did an entire deck about Unlucky, not this one, but the Cabbage Merchant, the legendary version. You can check out on the channel. This version is 1 and a green for a human citizen. When it enters, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you search your library this way, put this creature on the bottom of its owner's library, then shuffle. What's interesting about this, and I talked about it in the video I did before, is the fact that if you have a bunch of food out and then you have, say, a free way to sacrifice food tokens, of course you can just pay to sacrifice them, but if you have a free way to do it too, you can sacrifice it, hold priority with the trigger to shuffle this and search for the library and all that on the stack, and then do another food token and another and another and another, and keep sacrificing as many as you can. And all of those triggers will be on the stack. The first one will shuffle the Cabbage Merchant, or actually the last one will shuffle the Cabbage Merchant into your library, but all of them will still happen. They'll just go, hey, shuffle that card into your library. It's already gone. And you've just ramped as many lands as you had food. It's an interesting little way to play around this, but also it is just a thematic, cool card in the set. Bender's Waterskin. This is the part of the show where we ask, is this 3 mana rock worth it in Commander? I think it is. It's 3 mana. Untap this artifact during each player's untap step. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. It'll just always ensure that you have at least 1 mana up on everybody's turns. I wouldn't put this in every single deck, especially if you're not planning to utilize that mana on people's turns. But if you do have a deck that's like this, you might want to take a look at this card, especially because it's going to be a common. You'll probably pull it, throw it into your Alayla deck or your Kalamax deck or something like that, and just see if it does work, because I think it will. Bitter Work. This is my pick for the best uncommon in the set. Let's take a look at it. It is 1 and a red and a green. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, draw a card, and then exhaust. Pay 4, Earthbend 4, activate only during your turn. Exhaust is something you can only do once, and then we already talked about Earthbending. Why I think this is one of the best cards in the bulk piles that you might have is the fact that it says whenever you attack a player with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, draw a card, and you have 3 opponents in Commander. If you attack 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, you'll draw a card for each one of those 4. And there are a lot of decks out there that just pump out 4 powered creatures. And especially if you have a commander that just naturally has 4 power, that means you're going to draw at least 1 card each turn. And then you always have the ability to turn one of your lands into one of those 4 powered creatures. This card is super great. Tolls of War, a white and a black for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a clue token. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent during your turn, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's very good in Aristocrat decks because of the fact that they just want as many bodies and as many triggers on the board when things die. So the fact that you're getting a clue token, which can trigger some of your, other Aristocrat things, and give you a card in the process is good. But if you just sacrifice things and you get another body at least once on your turn in the process, it's just another domino effect that happens. Now you sack something and boom, 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 boom. You're getting all these triggers, and one of them is getting an ally. And by the way, if you're building an ally deck or you already have an ally deck, this set is amazing for that. So the fact that this makes you an ally in the process could be really, really good for some of those ally decks that you might have. And then last up for today, we have Abandoned Attachments. This is 1 and a hybrid. Is it for an instant lesson? You may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. We have effects like this already when it comes to looting effects. But what's good about this is the fact that it is a lesson. So again, if you're playing in the strategy of having as many lessons as possible, this is going to help with that. But also just a lot of decks love this type of effect. I mentioned it earlier in the episode. If you have like a Norman Osborn deck with the mayhem and everything, this just goes in it. If you have, I forget the name of the, is it commander from Ikoria who loves when you draw and discard things. But there's a lot, there's Sky Sharks. There's a lot of cards and commanders and strategies that like this type of thing. So having another version of it is going to be super beneficial for that deck. So again, if you like that type of thing, don't look past this card in your packs. And that's it for me today. I love bulk cards. I love pointing out really, really good budget alternatives or just new effects that come onto commons and uncommons from a new set. And I love talking about all that with you guys here, as well as on EDH Rec. Like I said, I did my bulk up series for this set, and I'm also doing a bulk up for the Jumpstart set because that has a lot of really good new cards and reprints. So be on the lookout for that one too. Let me know in the comments which one of these cards I talked about today is your favorite. Please subscribe, like, comment, do all those things because it really does help me. And I hope to see you all next time in the fort. Yip, yip.